Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Drew here. Just decided to put together a little video on some of these Waves plugins. I've been kind of messing around with, Waves has introduced a lot of interesting plugins in the last, 6, 8 months, and they're going back and they're doing, when they first did the Abbey Road stuff and they did the Red series, and then I said, well, what are they really doing? I mean, is this really making any sense for what they're doing? So I decided to try some stuff out. So here I got a just Superior drummer with a little beat looped in Logic, and I'm actually a Pro Tools user, but I use Logic a lot for pre-production, so I decided to go ahead and try this out. But so we got this beat here, and just a little loop here, and right now it's got nothing on it, so I'm going to pull up these plugins and I'm going to go through them one at a time and just kind of explain them. Now this guy here, the Red series, I really like this one. This is a really good plugin to use on I'd say things that are missing dynamics, or things that just need a little bit of something. And let me just kind of explain the way I have it set up here. I've got it running mid-side, but this same thing would apply in the stereo field. I just kind of wanted to use mid-side to kind of exaggerate what this plugin is actually doing to this beat. So I'm gonna let it play for a second and listen to it, and then watch what happens when I bring in the Red. I love how if you see, I've kind of lifted the upper range. In the mids, I've kept everything pretty much straight up, just giving it a little bit of lift and saturation with the drive. And then I've done some low tone cut on the sides with just a little bit of lift to exaggerate the cymbals a little bit, and brought that gain up a little bit. And then of course I gain matched it, so we're not being fooled by volume. But more so than just the EQ, this plugin is doing a lot more than that. This plugin is really like I said, it's a great plugin it's a great way to glue. This is a great plugin to put on, a bus channel for drums, a bass. If you're using multiple DIs, or if your bass is changing timbres through a piece, this is perfect because it just gives it kind of like a real console. It adds a little something that I've put it on an analyzer. I mean, it's doing so many little intangible things. And this monitor section is just like magic because, like I said, you can just keep this plugin straight up and it'll sound great. Great plugin. Like I said, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit by doing it mid-side, but that saturation that you hear and feel would be the same just straight up in a stereo field as well, or even mono. It does something. Really great plugin. So, and we'll come back to it here in a minute. So let me go ahead and cut that. So the next one, I know a lot of people have seen this one. This is the Abbey Road series, the TG12345. And this plugin actually, it's really kind of funny because people use this in a lot of different ways. Very flexible plugin. Same thing, the monitor section is really key on what you can really get from this plugin. But me personally, I like it because of this section here, the dynamics section, because the dynamics section really it's subtractive, but the sonic quality is additive. You know what I mean? And you'll notice when I bring it in here is that it's dipping out unwanted frequencies, and so it's bringing out the clarity. So the first thing you should do is listen to the snare and listen to the kick drum, and then watch what happens when I bring in this plugin. Of course, I've gain matched everything. But see how it just gave the whole beat more presence, but see, it's done it by not boosting but attenuating, which is really cool. Bring it back in. And like I said, I have it driving just a little bit, but if you notice, I've actually had to pull back the input so I'm not, getting too much compression. And my wet dry mix is just, letting just a little bit of that saturation float off the top. But you hear how that it just cleans up that drum. Great, just a great plugin for doing that type of stuff. But the crazy thing about it is this plugin also works the other way. You can do some serious carving with this baby. You can get some really nice sweeps. Just a really great plugin to try out. What I like about it is that now if you've got live tracks or whatnot that you're trying to clean up, none of these plugins that I'm showing are going to do that. If you got hard cuts to do, big frequency sweeps, these aren't for that. These are more for sweetening and cleaning up a mix or adding something that just isn't there. These are great for that. So speaking of adding something that isn't there, I know everybody might have heard of this plugin or not, but yeah, WaveArts, this to me, when you want to go over the top and just smash the hell out of something, there are a lot of plugins that can do this, but I like this plugin because it does it in a way that the other ones just don't. And this plugin used to be a really CPU, it was a CPU hog. When you turn this thing on and run signal through it, you used to kill your processor, but they've done a good job in updating it. But yeah, when I hit this button, it's just going to be mayhem. Yeah, that's all it is. So take a listen. And of course, I gain matched it, so the levels are still the same. But you hear that bass drum is just being completely obliterated, but in a pleasing way. Just completely change the tonal characteristics of that. Kind of reminds me, this is almost like the digital version, if anybody's ever used the distressor, an actual distressor. Same thing, without, I'm not talking about the new one with the British mod and all that. I'm talking about the old school distressor, man. You could just hammer that thing and it just made stuff just sound, just better. That's just beautiful to me. Like I said, my CPU is, pumped up a little bit, but not nearly the way it used to be. It used to be really, really CPU hog. But this is great. Great plug-in to use if you just want to smash the hell out of something. It's clean. As you see, I have the EQ in. I'm just giving it just a little bit of lift. That drive knob is way up there, but that's all I'm using it for. And then that, you got to have the fat in there. Without the fat, like if I turn it on and I turn off the fat, I'll do it. You can hear that it just doesn't give you that low end. You need to have that low end in there. But sometimes you may not want it though. It depends on what you're crushing. Because these are drums, I got the fat on. I'm trying to turn the fat off. So you see what I mean? I mean, it's still there, but the fat just really emphasizes that low end. You know what I mean? That over-the-top sound. You gotta have that in there. Okay. So, and last but not least, we're gonna bring up this latest edition, and this is actually one that I watched a few videos on. You know, and a lot of times when people emulate older gear, you know, I say to myself, here we go again. You know, they're basically just running off of a name, you know. But with this one here, this is actually a really good. Honestly, it's a compressor, but it's more like a peak limiter or leveler. That's its strengths. So this is great for live drums, pretty much any live instruments, pretty much anything out of the box that's live that you need to calm it down on the way in. This is perfect because not only is de-esser, you know, with this jumper, you know, control down here, and then your parallel, you know, mixing abilities. But you know, you can pretty much squeeze down anything you need without losing dynamics or articulation. It does a really good job at being super transparent. And like I said, as far as, you know, the only thing I can kind of compare this to is Avid actually makes for Pro Tools. They actually make a Pro compressor. It's pretty similar to this, but this has way more functionality than the Avid Pro compressor as far as flexibility. And then, like I said, the other thing is the mid side. The mid side just takes it over the top because the Avid Pro compressor does not do mid side. So what you're gonna hear with this thing is you're just gonna hear this thing just kind of smooth these drums all the way out. Like if you listen right now, you can hear the pop of the snare. You can hear those hats just kind of riding on the top a little bit, and then you can hear the upper end of that kick drum every time it kind of hits through. Now watch what happens when I turn this on. Like I said, that, you know, I've already gain matched these, so none of this is going to jump out at you, so you have to listen to the individual frequencies. So take a note those three areas, and then watch what happens when I hit this. You hear that? You hear how, listen to the kick. The kick still has the hit. Listen to the snare. Snare still has the hit on it. Cymbals are still there. But just a little bit of limiting over the top. Getting those peaks. Those real upper peaks. You see how it's smooth the whole mix out. I'm gonna A and B it. It's almost like removing the separation between it. This sound almost sounds separated, and then all of a sudden, here comes the glue. can just hear it, almost like that fills in the gaps for you. That's the glue. But in doing that, you're still preserving the snare, still hitting. You can still hear the low rolls on that snare. The kick still has the thump. Everything's still there. Now this compressor alone can be a whole nother video series. There's so many different things this thing can do. It's ridiculous, and that's an understatement. But I pondered on this because I said, well, you know, how many compressors do I have like this? And I got a lot of plugins. Ever since I went in the box, I always make sure that I keep tools around that I'm gonna need. And this one, I've had Waves plugins that I've been kind of liking, their latest selection of things. My next plugin that I've kind of been eyeballing, but I'm not really sure if I really need it. It'll be that Waves NX, and I've heard a lot of great reviews about it, but we'll see, because I really need a solution like that, because I do lug around a lot of gear, and monitoring is a big deal for me. But if I can get decent mixes and headphones, I would actually. A lot of people are telling me that it's the real deal. So we'll find out here. I'm definitely going to take it through its paces, and if it's all that, then I'll definitely have to make another video. So just to kind of recap, let's see if I can get them all up here on the screen. And see if I can have enough room here to. Yeah, these guys here, like I said, they're all really good for what they do. Kind of different ends of the spectrum. Like I said, this guy is great because it does a whole lot of things that you cannot do with other plugins. This one plugin right here can do a whole lot, and not just for a single channel, but all together in the mix. This guy here is great for, it's more of a musical EQ. Another really musical EQ that I really love is from Eosis, Fabrice Gabriel. He does a lot of stuff for Slate. He has an air EQ, which is really nice. It's very musical. This is sort of like that, but with more of an analog feel. It's going to give you more warmth. It's going to give you more saturation. So it's not really for everything, because stuff can get muddy if you use too much of this. Whereas this guy is a little bit more. This is really transparent, but the way it works, if it's used in succession with other plugins, it can tend to get a little muddy on you. This is just this is just destruction. I mean, this is when you want to just mangle the hell out of something, but with good quality. Like I said, I put this in there with the distressor because the distressor was a great analog compressor unit with actual a digital circuitry, digital front end with actual analog guts, but it was able to achieve really great distortion, and this does a really good job at doing that. So if you really want to distort the hell out of something, that's a great plugin to do. And then last but not least, this guy here is a really good, like I said, it's a compressor. That's what they say it is. But the de-esser, honestly, I've heard better as a de-esser, even with the jumper controls and the flexibility. It doesn't really shine. It's really the limiting. The compressor. Like I said, there are definitely better compressors out there, but just being a peak limiter but the type of peak limiter that it is and having mid-side makes this a pretty good Swiss Army knife for just about anything out of the box. And then you can, like I said, stuff in the box, because let's face it, you would never need all of this control for something in the box. Nothing would ever be this crazy. So this is going to be more for your stuff that's coming out of the box, or there's lots of slick ways to use these plugins. So I guess you can get creative with it. But this is perfect for vocals. Like I said, anything live, guitars, drums, anything out of the box that you're bringing in. This will pay for itself in first time you use it, guaranteed. Whether you use it on the way in or use the post fader in the mix, you'll love it. So hope that was informative, and we'll come back later, and hopefully we'll report with some other stuff. Alright, you guys, take care.